Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 6 of the season, coming to you today from Magny-Cours. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. Well, Josh, this is far from the first time that we have seen these Formula Vs run here at Magny-Cours. They're a bit of a staple as of recent here in the Weekend Warriors world, and a very intriguing track as well. Used to host the Formula 1 French Grand Prix as late as, I believe, 2007 or 2008. It is a very intriguing track. This lots of interesting turns, shall we say, and certainly an interesting race that lies ahead for these competitors too.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. This place is pretty technical. It's pretty different. Only had a chance to be here once or twice. I don't really know this place outright yet, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who also are in the same boat. I've actually been here, I think, 2 times, but once again, it's just one of those tracks we don't frequent enough, or maybe hasn't been on the service for long enough that I don't quite have the whole track memorized in my head right now. I couldn't close my eyes and do a lap like I can with many of the tracks on iRacing, as I'm sure many of us can. This one still sort of eludes me a little bit, and I would imagine there's going to be a lot of laps turned this week leading up to this to try to get the speed out here.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point that you bring up there, Josh. This track, it has been on the service for a decent period of time, but it just doesn't get a lot of use both in officials and in league events. I think before we had some Formula V and Spec Racer Ford and Formula Ford action, I didn't really see these cars. I didn't really see any cars, frankly, run at Magny-Cours up until the Weekend Warriors took place here. I think it was a 4-hour sports car race that I did over on another network back in, probably May of 2024, and it was from then all the way up until earlier this year when I got the opportunity to do another broadcast at Magny-Cours. It just does not get a lot of use. So we'll have to see how these racers try and tackle that challenge here today. Had a pretty darn good race last time out. Oschersleben running in the rain, but now here at Magny-Cours, don't have to worry about the rain. It is a perfect day here in the French countryside as we look to round off the first half of the season in style. Currently running on board with the driver of the 841 car, Brian Szynski. His brother Dan is actually the sponsor of this broadcast here for the Formula V Weekend Warriors, but we would like to thank Brian, who was a sponsor a little bit earlier on in this championship. The Szynski's fantastic members of the Weekend Warriors, and most certainly the Formula V Weekend Warriors world. Always love to see him out there on the racetrack. As time's already getting set on the board. There we go. A little bit of WD-40 on this week's graphics. In Coliseum, currently jumping up to the pole position.
I'll take the blame for that one. That was, I believe, I got that one a little messed up there. So yeah, we definitely want to thank our sponsors here for the Formula V's, and we're on board with Brian Szynski here going into what looks like the first section of the course here. You know, like I was saying, I'd love to do a track guide around here, but I honestly don't remember this track very well. I'm supposed to be driving in the FF here tomorrow. Haven't turned a lap yet, so it's going to be a bit difficult for me. Not even sure I'm actually going to make that one, but you know, place looks fairly wide. We got lots of drafting opportunity here too amongst the technical corners as well. So I would imagine this one's going to be a little bit, you're going to have to make some good decisions out there for sure. You know, like I like to say, almost every round, decision making is really a big part of driving these cars and making sure that you can finish a race and be in the right position when you need to be. Tortello being one of the best at that for sure. We see him every week, just able to just time things to perfection and make good decisions at exactly the right time, and that's kind of what matters around here. You see Guido Marzucci there hitting the brakes real hard, getting a little bit of dirt on that one, finding the limits of the track here today, and that's also going to be part of it too. There's a little bit of some counterintuitivity going on around here, if that's a proper way to pronounce that one.
Oh, in my entire broadcasting career, I think I've invented many words that are not in any sort of language dictionary. Doesn't matter if it's the Oxford English Language Dictionary, could be in any language you want, and it would still not be a word found in there. So I have invented some words in my broadcasting career, I can assure you that much. I mean, hey, the last time I was on a SMB broadcast back on Thursday, I think I remember talking about Usain Bolt running in shoes made out of chocolate pudding.
Pudding shoes.
It fell off the rails. I want to say that for these broadcasts, just to make it super clear, I am stone cold sober. The only thing that I'm running on this show is just a little bit of sleep deprivation, a ham sandwich, and a glass of water. Which, who knows? Maybe that's the key to have some very odd things come out of my mouth on these broadcasts. But now looking ahead to Josh Justice, he jumps up to 7th here in this qualifying session. That driver of the 099 car, despite the fact we usually associate him with the Spec Racer Fords as he's a real-life SRF competitor in the SCCA, he is still pretty all right in these Formula Vs, has driven some in real life. I don't think he's gotten the opportunity to race one, though, in real life, but certainly has in the sim. The past champion of the Formula V, ranks in the right Esports Club Racing League, and very talented in these Formula Vs.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh is always always a good competitor out there for sure. I've raced him in a few different types of machineries. He's a good racer, always nice and clean and stuff as well. Really good in the SRFs too, but also showing his nose around here in the FVs as well. We got Guido Marzucci going to the top of the board here. Nate Colasio just behind him, and then our first Spec 2 driver of Russell Telker there. Not too big of a gap, I would say, between the first like 4 or 5, actually 5, 6 drivers there. We're all pretty close. So it looks like maybe from our last time here, if I do remember correctly, it was a little bit more spaced out. You had a bit more of a gap, especially once you kind of got down to the midfield. Now, not so much. We've all kind of figured this out a little bit more, it looks like, and we'll probably see that reflected in the race as well. Should be a little more side-by-side around here than last time, perhaps.
Yeah, so we'll see as this track becomes a bit of a Formula V and just Weekend Warriors fixture, whether or not these competitors slowly but surely build up that level of confidence season after season to go side by side in bits of the racetrack they wouldn't battle earlier, or whether or not we will actually see any sort of new experimentation with running different lines here. This is a confusing racetrack to some. Once you get into a groove of this place, you will really start to like it, but it certainly takes that added seat time to really try and settle in here. As let's do a little bit of an onboard lap here with Russ Telker as he heads his way off through turns number 1 and 2. This opening series of corners super quick, flat out in these V's. Turn 3, close to it. You do have to have a couple of lifts through there. I remember racing in the Formula V draft party a couple of seasons ago, and tried going through turn number 3 as close as I could to going flat out. It is just slow enough whereby you can't. So very tough corner to nail down. A super important one as well, because it spits you onto this back straightaway through turn 4 of golf. Yes, they do call it golf. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but if you get a hole-in-one off through this straightaway, you're gonna have a good shot to go for a move down into the Adelaide hairpin of turn number 5, the site of many exciting moments in Magny Corps history, and we'll probably see some overtakes all throughout this race today. Now, in another flat-out list before we head off into the tight, twisty, and very technical infield section, we start off with this quick chicane, turn number 7 and 8. Really not it's a slightly inconsequential section when you're running by yourself, but side-by-side battling through there can be a bit of a detriment. Now off through turn number 9, 180 degrees they call it, which is quite fitting considering my past experience driving around there. It's actually 360 because I'd go through the 180 degree corner and then spin 180 degrees, so make it a full loop-de-loo. And now that we've got another flat-out blast, we go into a similar repeat of 7 and 8 with 12 and 13. Bit on the blinder end with some more cresting over the top of 13. And you got to worry about this turn 14. This is a tough section to try and nail down. Kind of feels like the track repeats itself, but instead of having the tight hairpin at turn number 9, you've got an even tighter hairpin of turn number 14, but different on the radius. A very tricky corner to nail down regardless. This bend in the road is called chicane. I cannot tell you why, but here's turn 15. Whose name in French I will not attempt to read because I do not want to get burned at the stake. Now, we've got the final chicane at 16 and 17. That completes a lap, a very hectic one here at Magny Corps. Russ Telker, currently qualified in 4th, does not improve with that session. That final chicane, if you go side by side through there, you should probably start writing your will and testament.
Yeah, I don't think maybe one time I've seen some drivers get through that clean, and to do it side by side, you almost have to come to a stop in the middle of the in the middle of the chicane. It's really not worth it. Every time I see somebody trying to make that work, if they're not ahead of the other driver by the time they get there, it's just a silly move to try to make it. It's going to lose you so much time to the competitors behind you and in front of you. It's just simply not worth it. It's better to go through their line of stern, maybe try to get a good exit and then take the guy down the straightaway if possible, but trying to go through there too wide or make it kind of middling a pass through there is never going to work out. It's best usually just to go through one by one, unless of course it's the last lap and then you want to try to send it, but we'll see how that goes today, and I bet you we're going to get a little bit of that. You know, I'm noticing, not remembering quite exactly how open and long some of the straights were around here. Like I was saying in the beginning, don't really remember this track quite as well as I would like to, but yeah, there's actually quite a bit of straights here. This does look like a place that I might enjoy now that I think about it. I kind of like more technical stuff. I have to go turn some laps here this afternoon maybe in the FF and see if can't get my hands around it, but we will see about that tomorrow. As Felix Samoa is getting 2 purple sectors here. Looks like he is probably going to better his time by quite a bit. and does not. So that's not going to be much better. Looks like he kind of messed up the last bit there.
He actually did, but he didn't improve his spot. He tied on lap time with Nate Colacio there. I mean, we talk about how close this series is, and only in the Formula V Weekend Warriors will you have a tie in qualifying. I'm surprised in the little over a year that we've gotten the opportunity to cover this series together, Josh. The fact that we haven't seen an actual tie coming across the line, never got the opportunity to see that thus far in my iRacing broadcasting career. But if it's ever going to happen, it's probably going to be here in the Formula Vs. But Samoa is not able to punch himself up into that first row. He'll be starting behind in row number 3, but certainly gave it the old college try, literally setting an identical time to Colacio, but he set it first, so Colacio gets the upper hand. Looking at some more drivers out there on the racetrack. Here's Stefan Heemskerk in the number 96 car, purple in the first sector, yellow in the middle. Let's see what he can do off in the final sector before we potentially take a look at the championship points after he comes across the line. Really the last driver to set some times here in this session. We'll note Michelle Lynn, after a brief spook earlier with some internet connection issues, she is out there on the racetrack and is qualified for this race in P11. So nice to see her out there as well. Heemskerk with a bit of a hop, skip, and a jump off through the turn. I think he picked up a slowdown, and that will invalidate his lap time right off the bat. Jason Grider probably not going to have any time to set a time. So let's take a quick gander at the championship point standings as we are getting to the halfway mark of this season. A lot of storylines that we have seen thus far, and certainly going to see some more develop here today. Here's how it stands in Spec 1. Felix Samoes holds on to the championship points lead. 454 points is his tally at the moment. Despite the fact he hasn't gone for all-out glory thus far this season, he's just gotten enough good results and has counted on some of the racers a little bit farther behind to run into some inconsistency. Right behind him will be Josh Justice in P2. About 64 points is a gap between those two at the front of the field in Spec 1. Guido Marzucchi slotted in 3rd, Tortello in 4th, with Stefan Heemskerk running at the top 5. And now we will look now at Spec 2, where things have been a bit more up in the air, so to speak. Brian Szynski is your current championship points leader, only at 9 in front of Steven Westcott, slotted in P2. Brian Hansen in 3rd. Jason Grider in 4th, with Brian Belansky just showing up week in and week out, able to put in those consistent points. He's slotted in 5th in the Spec 2 category. Nice to see him out there with Dan Szynski a couple of spots behind the sponsor of today's broadcast. And now we'll take a quick gander at the Masters category, where things have really been up in the air before we move off into this race. Wayne Buttermore is set to top the championship points lead over Jim Brewster. 1 point the gap between those two competitors, with Kurt Nunez, Alan DeGassis, Andrew Love, Nick Tello, Antonio Reese, TV Wright, and Jörg Motti completing your Masters racers classified at this point of the season. Wayne Buttermore, a driver who's been around the block before in the Weekend Warriors world, a driver I've found the opportunity to cover for many, many moons now. First time I've ever seen him at the championship points lead in any of the Formula V's. Really awesome to see that. He's going to be starting this race in 19th. And speaking of, let's take a look at the starting grid for this race at Magny Court today. Start off by taking a look at the front row, where it was Guido Marzucchi grabbing another pole position. He grabbed the pole at the Saxon Ring, wasn't able to capitalize and score the victory there, but it feels like only a matter of time before Guido can win one of these races. Nate Colacio set to join him on the front row. It's going to be Felix Samoa starting in 3rd alongside Russ Tilker. Spec 2 pole sitter in 4th. Leon Frost in his Formula V Weekend Warriors return will be in P5 alongside series admin Jim Brewster in 6th. Stefan Heemskerk will start in P7 alongside Tortello in 8th. Andrew Love will start in 9th, with Brian Szynski running out of top 10.
And then we have series admin Michelle Lynn in P11. In P12, we have Nick Tello. In P13, we have Joshua Justice. P14, today's sponsor, Brian Hansen. In P15, Kurt Nunez. 16, Dan Szynski. Sorry, that was today's sponsor. Got it mixed up from last week there again. Dan Szynski was today's sponsor. Thank you for that. 17th, we have Steven Westcott. 18th, we have Brent Thompson. 19th, Wayne Buttermore. And in 20th, Jason Grider bringing up the field.
And so there we go, 20 starters, and hey, we were able to go through all of them before they started up on this formation lap. Perfect professionalism from the both of us there. But, Josh, this is always a race where we expect the slipstream to be a bit of a sneaky suspect in this event. Those long flat-out blasts just long enough to keep these Formula V's cars tightly packed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, always the first couple laps, the formation lap, even everything. You got to make sure that you keep it tight and close. Probably trying to warm up the tires a little bit right now. This first lap around here, I think, is going to be a little bit frenetic. There is a lot of corners around here, a lot of temptation, I would say, to go 2 wide or 3 wide or kind of put one up the inside. As always, the first lap is a good place to kind of make up some positions. It's also a really good place to lose all of the positions. So you want to make sure you get those stabs into the void there correct every once in a while. Not every gap that is open is an opportunity as we're about to get started here. Looks like he jumped already, actually. Guido off to a great start.
Yeah, Guido gassing it up very early on. The green flag is that the drivers are on their way, and Guido going to lead them off down into turn number 1. Look at Felix Simoes. He's already jumped up to second as Nate Colascio holds on to third, looking at everybody else negotiate the first few turns as clean as they possibly can. A little bit surprising to see Tortola start a little bit farther in the back. P6 for him is that's a back of the pack start for a driver like Tolo in this series. A 3-time past champion, won those 3 championships back to back to back. So we'll have to see whether or not he can get the job done here this season. He was gunning for it for sure. Gonna be starting a little bit farther behind here in this race as we look at 3 wide action with Brett Thompson, Kurt Nunes, and Dan Szynski as they head their way down the backstretch off into turn number 5. Felix Simoes is now your race leader over Guido Marzucchi. Side by side racing still going on all at this field, and the big stack up into the Adelaide hairpin.
Yeah, a bunch of action here at the back of the pack and in the middle. Still looks like up front here, Felix Simoes has actually managed to get around Guido Marzucchi. I would imagine down that long straight there, he was able to just drag race him, and he's going to take the lead for now. That was quite the jump from Guido there. He got quite the jump off of the first corners, but it's already caught him. Just goes to show you again just how powerful the draft is going to be around here. That didn't even last for an entire lap, and he was able to catch up those 5, 6, 7 car lengths that he pulled away from. We're looking pretty line astern here at the moment. Colascio taking a little peek there on the inside of Guido, maybe just trying to intimidate him. We're going to get through the chicane here for the first time. Let's see how we can all make it through here. Oh, no, that's not the chicane. Actually, I'm going to pull up our track map and get a little better idea. We're almost down to that chicane now. This spot here is just so tempting to try to throw one up the inside around the chicane, and it's just never a good idea. So we'll see what happens as we get into that. And we got some side-by-side just behind Colascio there with Russell Telker.
Honestly, turn 14 and turn 15 around this racetrack are rather similar in nature as Russ Telker dropping down. Had a bad run off through turn 15. Got to lose out on some spots as Jim Brewster going to spin around. I think in that moment with Telker getting slowed up a bit down into that final chicane, it did catch out Brewster. He spun around. That's going to cost him the lead in the Masters category. He's going to drop down like a stone thrown into a pond. We'll have to load up a replay sooner rather than later to see exactly what went wrong heading off through there. I was just going to say, to wrap up on the point that I was raising before the drama broke out, turn 14 and turn 15 around this racetrack do feel rather similar. Curves in the braking zone, tight hairpins with a really short radius and an exit that may catch you out pretty badly. There's certain points of this racetrack where it feels like it's just repeating itself.
Yeah, actually, you're right. There is some spots that feel very, very similar to each other. So it looks like we're going to... Well, it might be all on his own here. Yeah, just a little too much curb. So you might get a little unsighted possibly by Russell off the track there. And, your mind's kind of in a bit of a different spot as you're entering that section of the track. But, yeah, either way, that was kind of all on Jim, unfortunately. He spun there, so... Got a pretty big pack of cars behind him here. He should be able to make up some positions, I think, before the end here if he plays his cards right. But we got a pretty big pack here at the back, still fighting. Guido Marzucchi taking the lead of the race once again here from Felix. And we got a spin in the background. Andrew Love, I believe that may have been, not sure who was with him there. Andrew Love for sure, though. Not facing the right direction, Ron.
I think it may have been Russ Telker who got a piece of that drama as they headed their way off through turn number 9. So unfortunate for Telker to have a moment. Let's take a look at his perspective in that 260 car, running in the small little train with himself, Andrew Love in the middle, and Brian Szynski right in front. Here comes Telker down into the turn. So tricky with so many different lines you can run through here, and yeah, contact being made. That's a problem with turn number 9. Probably one of the more frustrating turns around this racetrack as the drama has not ended for Telker. He goes for a spin off through turn number 14, ends up in the gravel trap. He'll tow back to pit lane and probably call it a day. Yes, he will. But just proving the troubles with turn number 9. I'm not sure, Josh, if you remember too much about the negotiations that you have to go through turn number 9. You feel like a hostage going through there. It feels like it's a turn that you have to drive through against your will.
Yeah, there's a few like that around here, if I remember correctly. It's not an easy track. It's one that you really need some patience, and you got to make sure you're slowed up properly for every corner and getting your exits correct and stuff. And like I said, in the run up, if I remember correctly, there's some kind of counterintuitive corners around here as well that your mind wants you to go to that apex and drive into it, and it's just not the right thing to do. You got a late apex or perhaps even miss the apex altogether to get the corner right. So a little bit difficult around here for sure, as we're seeing them kind of brake testing each other here. We're getting a bit of a race here between Tortello, Guido Marzucci. Now Tor has definitely entered the chat. Felix is up in there as well. Nate Colascio just kind of watching in the background here for the moment, hopefully able or perhaps waiting to pick something off if something does go wrong. But we got Tortello up front here already from I believe it was about P6. He's made his way to the front.
Yeah, I was just going to say that despite the fact that Tello started a little bit farther behind his competitors than he probably had in mind, he was probably going to scythe his way through the field. And sure enough, that's exactly what's happened for Tello. He's in the race lead, Marzucchi in P2, Felix Samoas, Nate Colascio, and Leon Frost completing this pack. Keeping on that number 59 car of Frost. I remember, as that was Josh Justice actually running off the track a little bit farther behind. That was heading off through turn number 10 that I think I saw him off on the inside through there. But Leon Frost, a racer who I remember when he made his debut here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors, he was just new to iRacing, but ever since then, we have seen him develop into a pretty darn good racer, and let's keep eyes on him to see what he can do in this race. You've got the usual suspects up in the front, Tor and Samoas, of course, past champions for the past year here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors world. They're obviously the usual contenders. Guido up in the front throughout a vast majority of the season, looking to break through and go into victory lane. But he also got Nate Colascio and Leon Frost that are going to make sure that those three drivers in front realize that they are not alone all throughout it.
Yeah, that's always great, right? The likes of Colascio and the likes of Frost here as well, who are just keeping people honest and stuff up at the front here. It's not as easy. We see Tor win, quite a bit. Almost every week he's able to pull out a win. It's not easy to do that, and his competitors are right there on his butt. He's winning by the smallest of margins every week, as we're going to go 3 wide here momentarily. They're looking for it anyway. I'm going to see if we can't get an onboard here from maybe Colascio and get a good front row seat for what's about to transpire here into the hairpin. And we're going to get through nice and clean. So they're still playing ball. Nobody really did anything too frenetic there. Everybody's kind of on the clappers, really looking around at the driver beside them, making sure not to make contact. You'll watch the what would you call it, kind of the way that they're translating their movements and stuff like that change as they get closer to the end of the race. It's not going to look quite that smooth and nice anymore. I almost guarantee it. We'll try to bring that point back up again later if we can't actually see the way that they're driving. They're going to go 3 wide through unfortunately, we're going to lose Felix Samoas on that one and Colascio. I kind of felt that one coming, Ron.
Yeah, there was so much tension building in that battle that something was going to break soon. Unfortunate for Samoas, that's going to give a good opportunity for that championship lead in Spec 1 to really close up as we round off the first half of the season at the very end of this race. We'll have to load up a replay to see exactly what happened between these two. Stack up through the turn. Samoas gets a little bit sideways through it, and then, oh man. That Samoas' car nearly dropped right on top of Nate Colascio's head.
Yeah, that would have just definitely squished the banana. Yeah, so you can see he's trying to just kind of monopolize on that moment, I think, there. So nothing wrong with Colascio. And unfortunately, it just looks like, Samoa's clipped. I think that was Tor's right front or left front wheel. It's just a bit loose. And then, Tor's got nowhere to go because Guido's up his inside. And then the pressure from Colascio. It all just kind of happened at once there, Ron.
Yeah, it just boiled over. That sideways snap from Samoas was essentially the beginning of the end for those racers in this race. It's a heartbreaker for all of them as they are running a little bit farther behind. with Just Justice blinking in and out. I think that may have caused our SDK graphics to briefly croak out as Brett Thompson briefly jumped down to the race lead. Well done on the Triple 8 car from leading a lap. And now we got side-by-side racing with Tortello and Guido Marzuki for the race lead. Down into turn number 5, they're going to go. And Marzuki holds on to that race lead still. Tortello slide right behind Leon Frost, completing that train of cars at the north end of the field. And it's actually given an interesting twist to this battle a little bit further behind, involving Samoas. We'll touch on that point in just a couple of moments as we take a look to see what happened to Josh Justice. Saw him dropping down the running order, and before that car could even come down pit lane, he had decided to call it a day. So expecting rather quick. Alt F4 hit the curb, spun around, hits the wall, and bang, there he goes.
Yeah, unfortunate. I think we've all been there on that particular chicane. You know, it almost helps to have a more powerful car coming through there, because you can just kind of hop through the whole thing a little bit more speed to kind of just basically not touch things quite as. Oh, and Hansen or Thompson, sorry, just having a bit of a time with that section of the course there. So unfortunately, people struggling with that section. We see it every time we come here, don't we, Ron? That chicane's just a point of contention for many reasons.
That chicane was actually one of the later alterations made to this racetrack. A matter of, I think it was only made in the mid-2000s. I'll have to fact-check myself to get exactly when the date was when they added in this chicane. It used to just be a simple straight run down across the line on this start-finish straightaway that has remained unchanged for many, many moons. But yeah, unfortunately, that chicane catches at many. It's calling out many thus far in this race. New driver, veteran driver, rookie experience, past champion. Doesn't matter what it is, who it is, or who you are. That final chicane will bite, and bite hard. I remember one time talking about that endurance race I covered many moons ago. It was the first opportunity that I had to really run laps here in anger at Magny-Cours. And I'll tell you one, this is honest, I hit that inside curb through that chicane so hard one time that I think I threw my back out just in spite for my iracing character. So yeah, that final chicane, absolutely brutal. As I was going to touch on this before we jump to the replay of the moment for Justice taking him out of contention. The battle a little bit farther behind these front 3, make that the front 2, and Leon Frost, as it's really broken up between Frost losing out on a lot of time. Stefan Heemskerk, Michelle Lynn, Felix Samoas, and Brian Szynski giving us a nice little battle to talk about for some of the final spots inside the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we needed to get to that for sure. Felix Samoa's kind of caught up in it now, breaking up that fight a little bit. But just as we were touching on him spinning and so on there, you could see in the background that Michelle Lynn and I believe it was Heemskerk here and Brian Szynski all in a pretty good battle here as well. And it looks like now Felix Samoas has entered the fray. I would probably, if I was Stefan, probably let Felix go. I'd draft him, maybe see if I could learn a couple things off him and keep going, not fight him too much. And that looks like that's what he's done there. He put up a bit of a fight, as one does, and then he's going to let him by here now. And hopefully he'll be able to draft him a little bit, get a little closer to that pack in the front, and we'll see what happens with Michelle Lynn and Brian Szynski here as we go on. But they were definitely in a pretty good battle. Brian Szynski being the leader of our S2 class at the moment. Curtin Nunez leading Masters. Tortello is leading S1. And not much of a battle between classes now, except for S1 there. We do have Curtin Nunez back here, and then the closest competitor to him in Masters is going to be Jim Brewster, who is on the recovery mission here at the moment.
Yeah, Jim, after that spin, heading all through the chicane a little bit earlier on in this race, still trying to break his way back up into the top 10. It's a pretty darn good shot to do it, as Kurt Nunez currently holding on to that Masters class lead. I don't know why I picked up the hiccups at the worst time. That's usually what it is. Never have hiccups off the air. I always have hiccups on the air. That's how my body works. Don't kill me now, indigestion, I swear. That is Brewster jumping his way up into P10 as Brian Hansen going to yield that spot off through turn number 3. And now he's going to feel some pressure from Andrew Love as they're side by side, getting spat onto the back straightaway through 4 into 5 in just a few moments' time. Who's going to be the next to pounce? Give it to Love and Brewster. They're going to go side by side now into 5. It's going to be Andrew Love on the outside. Jim Brewster going to back out of that. He says, you know what, side by side racing off through here, pretty darn brutal. So I'm going to let you get that spot. I'll come back at you a little bit farther from this point in time. We are still not past the halfway mark of this race at Magny-Cours today, so still plenty of racing left.
Yeah, lots of racing left around here, and it's actually shaping up pretty good. I'm enjoying this one. It's a bit of a difficult track, so let me see if I can pull up a track map here. We'll have a look at how spaced out the field is. It's actually not doing too bad. We've got a few pack races going on at the moment. It's still really close up at the front too. We're having a bit of a ding-dong battle here again between Tor and Guido, who are trading back and forth for first place, which is kind of what you would expect in these cars. That's sort of how you keep your pace up, is allowing your competitor to get by you so you can kind of slingshot each other around the track. And it looks like that's at least what they're somewhat attempting to do here up at the front. Leon Frost getting gapped a little bit at the moment. He's sort of lost that pack, about 2 seconds. So he's just out of draft range now. It's going to be a little difficult to catch up to them at this point, unless, of course, there's a mistake up front. You get maybe, I don't know, Ron, maybe you can correct me on this one, but maybe you get a tiny little tickle of draft at about 2 seconds behind, like eeny weeny, but it doesn't really start doing anything until you're about 1 second.
See, I think the best way that I can describe the draft from about 2 seconds behind, it is essentially like trying to land like a 787 or some massive like Dreamliner plane into an airport, and the air traffic controllers warning you about air turbulence from a mosquito. That's pretty much what you've got. These Formula Vs, a second, it's fine. You can most certainly pick up the draft from that distance. 2 seconds, it's definitely a bit of an ask. It'll feel a whole lot better than if you're running completely by yourself, but it's not like the Indy cars whenever they're running at in practice for the Indy 500, where they say like the entirety of the straightaways at Indy are the drafting distance. If there's a car heading off into turn number 3 there and you're coming at 2, you'll still pick up a draft. These Formula Vs are very slow, even though they punch a hole in the air and they're strong drafters. It is still a bit of a tough ask to try and get the draft from that far back. As we take a look at Michelle Lynn, maybe got a 2-for-1 deal done off into turn number 5. A bit of a wiggle coming out of the turn, gets him moved on Felix Samoes, does not jump in front of Stefan Heemskerk, and now Samoes gonna look to fight back with he and Michelle going side by side off through turn number 10 and 11 right now. Let's see who's going to back out in this battle into Imola. This is the name of this section of the racetrack, the other quick chicane, similar to the 7 and 8 chicane, which is called Nürburgring. I don't know why. There's many parts of this racetrack that draw inspiration from other parts, not even in terms of like the way the turns are, just in terms of naming them. It's odd. You got Estoril of turn number 3, which does make sense. I think turn 3 at Estoril rather similar to that, if my memory serves me correctly. That actually, no, was the final corner at Estoril. That's similar to turn 3 here at Magny-Cours. You got Adelaide, which I don't think has really any relevance, and the Nürburgring and Imola sections don't really have any well. This is it's a bizarre racetrack, this, with some interesting turn names throughout.
Yeah, it is a bit of a bizarre track. You know, there's a few like this on the service now, some of the new ones that are, and I really enjoy them, honestly. This one, I can't really here nor there at the moment. Maybe after tomorrow, if I do make the race, I'll have a judgment on it finally. But I like a lot of the new ones, you know, Navarra and Osserschleben and stuff like that. I actually really enjoy those tracks. They're pretty fun. They're a lot different than the stuff we're used to, I guess, really, you know, and it can get a little boring as we see Guido Marzucci making things not boring here at all, getting up the inside of Tortello. He's going to take that position, maybe enough for him to, nope, he's not going to challenge him back into that corner, so he's going to be able to take that one and go back a little farther here, and we actually are still fighting back here as Heemskerk's made it around Michelle Lynn, and Felix Samoes leading that group of cars again at the moment, but giving him a pretty good run for his money back here in the 5th, 6th, and 7th positions for Felix, not making it easy for him to break away at all. So it just goes to show you how strong that draft can be. Once you kind of fall victim to basically any driver with some speed, it's going to be difficult to pull away from them, as we're seeing here. And I would imagine they're learning a couple things from Felix out there as well, possibly.
So it is a bit of a fascinating dynamic, having Samoes a little bit farther behind. Unfortunately, with that moment, heading off through turn number 9 a little bit earlier on in this race with himself and Nate Colacio. He's dropped down as involved in this battle. Speaking of a battle, look at that Hornet's Nest off through 9. Wow. That is Jim Brewster, Kurt Nunez, Wayne Buttermore, Dan Szynski, and Stephen Westcott, all covered by practically nothing as they headed their way off through turn number 9. This is pure unbridled pandemonium in this shot as we take a look to see some of the side-by-side battling that has been going on. This is actually a swaparoo for, I believe it's P2 in the Masters category, and contact being made. Jim getting spun off into the infield.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that from that replay, to be honest. I thought we were just about to get a shot of kind of maybe what transpired to get everybody in a big pack like that, but let's see if we can't have another look at exactly what happened here. It looks like just a bit of a spatial awareness issue here. A little bit of netcode helping things out there as well, but I'm not sure. They wouldn't have made contact either-wise, so stewards might want to take a look at that one after.
Yeah, so either way, a slice of unfortunate, but I gotta say, great sportsmanship from Kurt Nunez. He saw that mistake, he owned up to it, and just completely backed out of it. He said, you know what, I am not going to take that spot. I don't feel good about taking that spot. So he's involved in this battle with Brewster. They're at, in fact, nose to tail with Nick Tullo right in front and Wayne Buttermore right behind. So a train of 4 Masters competitors all running in a neat little pack currently. Oh man, I was just gonna say something rather interesting, but then Jim Brewster gonna make me say something rather exciting. Running off into the dirt, trying to get a move done on Kurt Nunez. He will be side by side with him, maybe into turn number 5. He cleared him down the stretch, but he still got a long flat out run into 5. Will he go for it? He will not. Side by side going on right behind though. That's Wayne Buttermore and Dan Szynski, the sponsor of today's broadcast, duking it out. That's for P14 at the current moment, and looking to see who can win out in that battle and who's going to get sent down. Szynski thought about going forward once again, down off into the Nürburgring chicane, but he thinks better of it. I will say, though, interesting thing that I was going to raise before these drivers decided to just duke it out for all the spots that they can. If we could pull up the track map graphic, with a couple of exceptions throughout the field, we have seen a bit of a filter, and it looks like every driver is just about sorted with a couple of exceptions here and there. You look through the top 6 entirely of Spec 1 racers, Nate Coliseum, the farthest back of those Spec 1 competitors, slotted in at P8, right behind Brian Szynski in 7th. Your top of the Spec 2 racers. He and Brian Hansen have broken away from the rest of the Spec 2 field, who's right behind the Masters field, which is pretty much all bunched up, with the only exception being Hansen. If we had a couple of drivers shift around and lose out on some time, gain some time in some cases, we would have pretty much the entire field sorted by Spec 1 Masters, then Spec 2. A little bit of a fascinating note from me.
Yeah, you're right. It's actually pretty close to sorting itself out. You'd be able to get, if you were ADD, you would absolutely love it if all of those colors lined up in a row perfectly. Not sure we'll ever see that as we get a little bit more fighting here up at the front. Guido Marzucci not ready to just give this one up to Tor, that's for sure. He's going to go up the inside here. Let him know he's still around. Let him know that he's still out there fighting, and he's also there for a win, not just out there to draft and play around behind Tor. So we'll see how this one ends up in the end. It's going to be, by the looks of it, between these two here. We only got about 7 minutes left. Or about 8 minutes left, something like that. And it looks like it might be down to these two here up at the front. Leon Frost is kind of gapped down to the back here. Felix Samoa leading this pack between Heemskerk and Michelle Lynn. And I think that's probably going to be the way she ends up here, as we see Heemskerk losing the rear end, as I perhaps jinxed him there. Whoops.
Well, I gotta say, and this is honest, I'm very happy that the commentator Shanks falling anvil did not come with my name and address added onto it. That is, that's a good thing to have indeed. So we continue to follow this racing out there on the racetrack. Then there were 2 in this battle with Samoas and Lynn, but Leon Frost, not sure what's going on with the driver of the number 59 car. Ever since he lost that draft, and the draft is very strong, don't get me wrong, but even then, he has lost out on a boatload of time ever since then, as Marzucchi and Tullo continue to run nose to tail. I feel like Tortello is basically treating Guido like a cat treats a mouse before he eats it. I gotta say, this battle that may be flaring up between Frost, Samoas, and Lynn, I'm not sure what's been going on with Leon Frost. He was running quick early on, but base has really fallen away from that number 59 driver, as these racers right behind him have been saying in some good lap times. You look at the time difference last time by, Leon Frost in the 206.3s, Samoas and Lynn both firmly in the 205s.
Yeah, you're right. He does seem to have kind of fallen off pace here, you know. I can kind of relate to that a little bit as we see Tor also going up the inside. Nope, not quite going to make up the inside there, but I can kind of relate to that a little bit. I'm always better at chasing than I am about driving. There are certain tracks that I just have attack mode on, and I feel like I'm racing the track, and I can extract lap times out of it. But other times there are tracks, probably like this one too, where I just I'm faster if I'm behind somebody else, and it's just maybe a bit of a comfort thing where you're kind of able to see that braking zone before you get there, and so on. And then once you're out on your own, you have this giant track in front of you, and you're not exactly sure where to place the car anymore. You're not exactly sure where to be, and you start losing just little incremental things here and there. And I would imagine that's what's happening to Leon Frost back there in third place, if he's anything like me. If I know the track really well, I can attack it and extract time, and you kind of feel like you're racing it as a competitor. And if not, you're sort of just hanging on, trying to look around. You know, tracks have a tendency, if you don't know them, to look really big and wide and scary sometimes, and they just look like giant parking lots. You're not really sure where to put the car.
Ooh, as I thought that was Tortello trying to go for a move on
you had a
Guido
look.
Marzuki off into turn number 14. That
scare
would
him.
have been very, very gutsy.
Yeah, I think he's probably trying to scare him there, right? If he just had a little poke out to have a look, and he even kind of dove on the brakes just a touch. And I would imagine that's just to either A, kind of test it, or B, just get in the head of Guido, make him miss a brake zone or something like that. Really good spot to try to do it in here if you can get the intimidation. As one of our other announcers says, press A for intimidation, like in a video game. Every once in a while, you can mind punt somebody. It happens. I've done it.
Oh, yeah, that is certainly what's going on here. Tor trying to get in the head of Guido. A little bit of mind games going on between these two competitors. Also, a comment that I said a little bit earlier on, how Tor was pretty much treating Guido like a cat would treat a mouse before he eats it. That's basically what we've got going on between these two. Tor going for the moves and just trying to get into Guido's head a little bit. He's now going for it around the outside, down the long flat-out blast on the back end of the circuit, off into turn number 5 here in a few moments' time. Will it be Tullo jumping up in front? It will be Tullo jumping out in front. Guido says, you know what? I'm happy with P2. Gonna slip back in tow. I'll let you get that move done, and then I can maybe enjoy the slipstream too. Guido's been punching the hole in the air throughout a vast majority of this race. It's been a darn good performance from Guido. We're definitely not just saying that because he's our one of our co-workers here at Slow Motion Broadcasting. Love to see Guido out there on the racetrack, and you can catch him in the production truck for the Formula Ford and Spec Racing Ford action tomorrow here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you a reason to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. The action's still intense though at the end of this race, with about 4.5 minutes left on the clock. Actually 3.5 minutes left to go. My apologies. The battle at the front still on between Tullo and Marzuki, as Samoas, Lynn, and Frost now start to duke it out behind.
Yep, still duking it out behind there. That's probably the closest battle other than this one on track at the moment here. You know, I'm wondering what Guido's thinking right now, how he's going to do this. You kind of want, I think you want Tor in front of you for most of the lap until the very end, because if you leave it to him to catch you in the last moments, he's probably going to figure that out. So you're going to need to be behind him. You're going to need to time this just right. And to be totally honest, if there's anybody out there who can do that correctly, I think it might be Guido. I think Guido's got the patience for it. He's not the kind of guy that's going to just dive and freak out for a win or wreck somebody because he wanted a position. He's going to think it out. And when it does work, it's probably going to work, I think. So we'll see what he does here. We'll see how he plays this one. And I really hope he gets a win today. I am being biased because he works for SMB. I'm just going to admit it. I want him to take a win today. I think obviously Tor, love seeing Tor out here winning all the time. We love having him here for sure as well. Not commenting on that at all. It's awesome to see the wins and him able to pull them out in those just tiny little incremental ways that he's able to do. It's just spectacular. But I would love to see someone actually get him on merit, and it might be Guido today. We'll see.
Meow.
Hey, there's what's his name?
Said what's his name, and then he immediately left. Oh, that was fantastic. See, I was gonna bring him in and ask if he had any words of wisdom for us, and then he beat me to it there. That's fantastic. Thank you, Adam, for that. Yeah, we can do the bit that I was going to do. As we get into the final minute and 25
Right when I think I'm
seconds in
being
this
smart.
race, let's have a nice word with a great sports philosopher, Mr. Adam Thompson, back here in the booth with a meow that will send me into therapy. Adam, how's it going?
I'm good, man. You guys continue the last 1 minute, 20 seconds of your race. I'm just here to hang out.
Alrighty,
Yeah, we are
sounds good,
heating
Adam.
up here, aren't we? With Michelle Lynn taking the lead from Felix Samoas here in the final minutes. So she is not playing around here today at all. That is a big competitor out there. You have to, to make a pass and try to hold it against him isn't going to be an easy thing to do. So she's definitely, here to play today for sure. Leon Frost having a look in the back. Not too sure how this one's going to work out. But definitely a race here in this pack for sure as well.
Yeah, so this battle for the final podium spot still going to be intense as we get to the end with a white flag in the air. One more lap of racing action here at Magny Corps, and it's Guido Marzucchi leading the race over toward Tullo in P2. I wonder if Tullo's going to try and go for the move that he went on a few moments ago to jump into the race lead once again. That back flat out blast into turn number 5 of the Adelaide hairpin is the spot to make it work, so we'll see if he can do it. Look at Tullo closing up that gap. He pulls to the outside line as they head their way down now into turn number 4. Will it be Tullo? Will it be Marzucchi? Who's going to win this race? Who's going to come up short? They go side by side down now into turn number 5. Who's going to back out? Who's going to win out in this fight? You can see Marzucchi later on the brakes. Tullo going to be stuck on the outside. Marzucchi is not going to give up yet. He's now going to be having the inside line into 7 and 8. And Tullo may have to back out of it, may have to think about another spot to get this move done. Has a slightly shorter approach, though, with that tightness on turn number 6. And he jumps into the race lead. Tullo going to take the race lead as they head their way down into 7 and 8 for the last time. Now, they've got some more of this middle sector and the entire final sector left to go, so it's not game, set, match for Tullo to win this race yet. Marzucchi has a good opportunity. He's actually got a decent amount of opportunities. You got this flat out blast down into the Imola chicane. You got the heavy braking zone to turn 14, and you also have turn 15 right at the end of another long flat out blast on this racetrack. I think Guido has got to time this run. Turn 15 is where he should probably go for it right before that final chicane. And let's see if he will have the speed and have the power to make it work. We're right on board with Guido coming out of turn number 14, rolling it out of the turn. You can see Tullo trying to break that slipstream under the bridge for the final time through the bend in the road into the braking zone right about now. He's going to leave the outside to Guido. Will that be the spot to make it work, though? They close up in the braking zone, but not enough for Guido to go for the move as they head their way through the final chicane. Tullo going to come across the start-finish line to win it here at Magny Corps.
Yep, he's going to hold that one off. And you can see Guido there being very fair about everything. He's not diving. He's not doing anything too frenetic or crazy. He's going to take that one. Second place. Very good second place for Guido there today. He put on a great fight for first place. Felix Samoa is going to come home in third after a bit of attrition there as well. Michelle Lynn also putting up a really good fight for that third place today. Wasn't able to quite get it. And Leon Frost just going to hang out for that one and finish up our first finisher in Masters class, of course, of Andrew Love, doing some pretty good racing out there. Looks like he's in the rhubarb at the moment. Nope, he's just parked on the side of the road. Yeah, that was a good one around Magny Corps. I think they're getting a hang of this track, it looks like.
Yeah, everybody slipping into their groove. You'll love to see it here as just waiting for a few more cars to come across the line. Nick Tullo and Jason Grider, the last of the cars to finish. Gotta say, Tullo now on a stretch of 3 straight wins here in this season to round off the first half. If he was here a bit more consistently as we got along throughout this championship, that would probably give him the championship points lead. But because Felix Samoas has been consistently here and consistently up towards the front, I think he's still going to hold on to that championship points lead as we enter the second half of the championship at Summit Point in 1 week's time. And of course, you'll be able to catch all of the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Waiting to see what sort of jumping chaos may go on. I think last season it was heading off through turn number 5 when I showed everybody the way to absolutely destroy your race car into that section of the track. I know there is a jumping opportunity here. I'm just waiting to see who is going to lead us to our ultimate destiny of seeing a Formula V car strike the moon.
Yeah, they always have something in store for us here, eh? But haven't been actually participating in these in the last little while. I keep forgetting at the end of the SRF races to smash my car up, but looks like maybe they're actually just kind of going looking for the pit lane here, although I could be wrong. Trying to read the energies. Nope, definitely not going for the pit lane, so we're probably going to go burn it down here somewhere, but I really have no idea where.
I think there may be a little bit of runoff area down into some. Oh, I think I know where they're going to go. They're going to go in the split in the wall and the start-finish straightaway. There is a bit of a breakaway where you can slip back into this access road and go in there.
Okay.
Here we go. This is, I am terrified to see what sort of chaos, carnage, and death and destruction we're going to have here. Small little alleyway between the grandstands and the barrier. Michelle, oh, she vaulted back onto the racetrack. Everybody lawn darting.
So they're always going to find something, every time. They found some little, some sort of an anomaly on track here. Almost took out the camera guy. It looked like there was actually a pretty nice bump to jump off of on the left there that they sort of missed. I'm not sure how you would actually hit that with any speed, but that probably would have been the one to do, as we're just going to break him down here. He's got some pretty wobbly looking front tires on her, and we're just going to burn it down at the end, as we always do before we get to our results.
Yeah, the front wheels on Stephanie Heemskirk's car were freaking out a teeny tiny bit there. I remember when that happened to Brian Szynski at Jerez a couple of seasons ago, and I think you had a laughing fit that lasted a couple of hours after that moment, Josh. As we're still seeing these races burn it down in the grass. It's basically like Dale Earnhardt celebrating his win in the '98 Daytona 500, burning it down in the grass, except we're not doing that in a stock car. We're doing it in a Formula V, and these cars are looking not nearly as fresh as Dale's car was looking at the end of all of that. I think maybe about high time that we take a look at the results from this 6th round of the championship. Keeping an eye on Grider. Oh, he vaults over, ball darts it, and twirling around in the dirt. Is he going to land it on all 4 wheels? No, he landed it perfectly on his side.
Okay, we might have to look at that. That's it. Okay, so that's one in a few thousand, I would think, to land perfectly on either axle, just perched on the side, and to catch it, probably even less rare. But yeah, well, that's one for the books there for sure.
Yeah, so I think it may be about high time that we take a look. Oh, okay, he nearly flipped it once again. Yeah, let's take a look at those results. See, here's the thing about slow motion broadcasting. We're the only broadcaster on the entirety of YouTube broadcasting iRacing events that has insurance protection for our drones, helicopters, and the blimp to prevent from car impacts. So you never know. You always have to cover your bases. Let's take a look at the results. Tortello is your winner. Guido Marzucchi slotted in P2. Felix Simoes rounds out your podium in 3rd. Michelle Lynn with a very impressive P4 at the end of this race, with Leon Frost slotted right behind in 5th. Nate Coliseo is classed in P6. Brian Szynski in 7th. Stefan Heemskirk will finish this race in P8, with Andrew Love and Brian Hansen completing her top 10.
And then 11th place, we have Jim Brewster in 12th, Kurt Nunez 13th, Wayne Buttermore with a good, another good finish. Wayne's really picked up the pace this season. Dan Straczynski, our sponsor for today's race, in 14th place. In 15th, we have Stefan Westcott, 16th, Nick Tullo, 17th, Jason Grider, 18th, Brent Thompson, and then I think there's one more driver. No, 2 more drivers. Joshua Justice, unfortunately, kind of getting taken out a bit early, and Russell Tauker having a bit of a rough one today, too. Looked like he had some pace, unfortunately, not able to finish this one, though.
Yeah, but nonetheless, those are your results here from round number 6 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at Magny Core. Once again, would like to thank Dan Szynski for sponsoring today's broadcast here on SMB. And with all that taken care of, I think we can move off into the results as Jason Grider blows up his engine. Even from afar from the blimp, you can hear the unmistakable iRacing sound of metal snapping when an engine blows. That's probably one of the most unsatisfying sounds in the world. It's like nails on a chalkboard for sim racers. However, we do have the opportunity to speak with some of our race winners. I think we'll get a kick started here by having a chat. I will drag into the broadcast booth. I think I'll have a chat with Brian Szynski here at the end of this broadcast. Brian, welcome in at the end of this race. It's going to be a P7 for you and a win in Spec 2. How was it out there here at Magny Core?
Hello, sirs. Glad to be here again. It was a race that was kind of handed to me through attrition, and I will gladly take it. I was just trying to keep it clean and come home with some points. So it wasn't a boring race, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah, good result indeed. I want to ask you about the challenge of racing here at Magny Core. About a season ago now, I got the opportunity to run with you Formula V drivers in the Friday night draft party, and I remember this combination being a real pain in the butt here in these cars. But I want to ask you, considering that you're a far better driver than I probably ever will be, about how it is running these cars around this racetrack. So many racers run into difficulties throughout today.
I would say Friday nights are more fun because, contact's inevitable here because there's no good passing spot. Even down into the tight hairpin, you can go 3 wide, but you have a long time to draft and you can't do it cleanly, and it just becomes a jumble if you're racing. Other than that, good clean passing points are very hard to come by, and at the same time it's a very drafty track, so you can always get like a quarter of the way up or halfway or even full up upon somebody, but you can't make a clean pass. So when Friday nights are fun, or let's just put it that way, when nothing's really on the line.
Yeah, I think now that my Friday night broadcast commitments are running out in about a week from now, I may get the opportunity to embarrass myself a little bit more in a Formula V. Kind of puts me down to scale with my broadcasting and driving skills. But I want to ask you, Brian, about the next round of the season. Going to be heading off to Summit Point, a classic American road course. So what are your thoughts heading to that track in 1 week's time?
Speaking of draft tracks, yeah, at least everybody knows that track pretty well, and the ins and outs of it, and how to pass or work together there. I've never done well at any of those heavy draft tracks, like Summit Point or a Lime Rock. So yeah, hope to be up here again, though, somehow, some way.
We'll have to see how that race at Summit Point goes in 1 week's time. We always expect some drama when the series rocks up there. But, Brian, before we let you go and celebrate the Spec 2 win, we'll give you the opportunity to give any thank yous or shout-outs.
I want to say hello, Mabel. Hello, Colin. Hello, Kristen. Hello, Dan, Dad, whoever's watching. Thank you. Thank you, guys. You always do such a great job. That's it.
There you go, man. Hey, thank you for the kind words as always. Well done on the shout-outs. Well done on the Spec 2 win here today, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Summit Point next time out.
And also, Ron's a much better driver than he lets out, so don't think he's just struggling to get around the track.
See, I think in the Formula Vs, I have to slip back into the mindset I used to have back in my single-speed karting days, which is so tricky to do because I can't remember where I leave my keys, let alone the kart that I used to drive a couple of years ago. I think that may be the reason why.
All right, see you next week.
See you as well. That right there was Brian Szynski, our Spec 2 winner at the end of this race. And yeah, I'll tell you what, and this is honest, some of the factoids that I drop in these broadcasts, I can usually tell you some random racing story from about 30 years ago, well before I was even born. But more often than not, I could not tell you where my keys are and what I even had for dinner last night. But anyways, we do have Andrew Love up there in the interview winning area, walking away with a Masters win here today. And it was P9 for him at the end of this race. So, Josh, I'll hand you the microphone so you can have a chat with Andrew Love here today.
Yeah, sure. Andrew, pretty difficult track out there today. We were talking in the run-up basically about, I think this is the second time we've been here with the Vs, and it looks like the pace has come up a little bit more familiar with the track. How was it out there for you today?
A battle until 5 laps from the end. But Russell and I had gotten together there at some point. I got to take a look at the replay, but I think I probably cut down on him. So I need to apologize to Russell for that. But after I spun, I was able to fight my way back through the pack, and because I was in the absolute last place after my spin, and then I worked my way back up I got through the pack and got the ninth. So it was tough out there. It was very tough.
Yeah, a little bit of attrition out there. We're just seeing now there a moment when I believe it was Nunez and Brewster got into each other. You're able to get a position back there, but we did see a little bit of attrition out there today. Bit of a technical course. A hard one, I was saying in the run-up. I just kind of don't remember this track every time I come here, probably because it's fairly new to the service. But yeah, I feel like it's probably the same with you guys out there too. We're still kind of coming to grips with this place. I don't not like this track, but I just can't seem to put it to memory yet. But you had a good one out there today. Is there any tips around here you can give us?
Well, this is one of the only tracks, there's only a handful of tracks that you have to use second gear on. So there is one corner where there's second gear. Second gear in the V is very difficult. Either you're going to spin coming in or you're going to miss the shift coming out, going back to third. So it's one or the other, pick your poison. And there's like 5 different lines in all the tight corners. Sometimes you leave the door open. Sometimes you got to come in defensive. The curbs aren't bad. The chicanes, bouncing over the curbs and the chicanes, that's not really bad.
Okay.
But then, but the curb up there at the top of the hill, like the 2 or 3 corners from the end, that curb is the worst one on the track, and that'll knock you out. Oh, besides the chicane coming into the start-finish line.
Yeah, the chicane is definitely the pucker factor around here for me, and I think most people probably too. And that's a good point. There is kind of some multiple lines through a few of the corners here. I think that's why this place is so difficult as well. You're kind of guessing or choosing as to which line you're going to take sometimes. But we're headed out to, I believe, Summit Point next time around.
It's my home track.
Yeah, you looking forward to that one? That's a good one for you?
Yeah, I love the track. I'm not very good there, but I love the track.
Excellent. That's another one I like too. Looks like you're sponsoring as well. So
I am. I'm a sponsor for that one, and I'm a sponsor for the last one for the season, I believe.
Brands Hatch GP. Right on.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we definitely thank you a whole bunch for that. We'll be looking forward to Summit Point. Is there anybody you'd like to thank there before we let you
go? Thank you guys for doing the broadcast. I see Adam is back, sitting out there.
He's in there somewhere, meowing.
Yep. Yeah, we forgot to take the catnip out of the booth.
Okay. So thank you guys for doing the broadcast. Thanks the whole Slow Motion team for putting everything together and putting the broadcast together. Thanks Dan. I believe Dan was the sponsor this week. Thanks Stevie, Jim, and Michelle for doing all the admin stuff, taking care of the bills, putting everything together and keeping everybody in line. Yeah, it's a great bunch. Like I always say, I've always had this thought in my head that if we were all invited to the wedding and we all were assigned to the same table, I think we'd all get along.
Oh, wow, that would be fun, wouldn't it? I'm sure we would have a blast. That would be a good time for sure. That's a good way to put it. That's a very good way to put it there, Andrew. Well, we'll see you next week, and good job on the win today in Masters.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
And that right there was Andrew Love, your Masters winner here today at Magny Core. Doesn't look like we're going to have any other racers looking to have a chat with us here today. But Josh, Magny Core really never disappoints. That track is bizarre, but it puts on some darn good racing too.
Yeah, I think bizarre is probably a fairly good same way to put it for sure. It's a little bit different out there. Definitely causing some different sort of lines, some different kind of passing opportunities and so on, and that's what we like to see around here. That's what I like to see anyway. Some people don't like the new stuff. I really like the new stuff a lot. I like to learn new tracks. I like it when I don't like a track. It actually kind of, it actually gets me stoked a little bit that I'm going to be able to learn something new, and maybe I can turn it into something I like. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes they stay in the not like category, but hoping tomorrow here, if I can get the time to practice, that maybe I can turn Magna Cores into one of those as well.
Yeah, it is a very fun racetrack. Certainly have to give it a lot of time to firmly settle into a groove, but once you can, it is going to be a very, very enjoyable racetrack indeed. But got a lot of good action to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting over the not too far off future. Looking ahead to tomorrow, of course, have that regular SMB triple header. The Formula Fords running at Rudskogen, the Spec Racer Fords running at Interlagos with XSLR returning after a 1-week break, running the big block modifieds for the second to last time at Lanier. And then come time for this week, we have got you booked with action. We have got the Sim Races Group F4 Series running at Alschersleben on the Grand Prix circuit, same track that the Formula Vs were running at 1 week ago. SRG F3 going to be at Alton Park on the Air National configuration. That's going to be some good Formula 3 action. And then next weekend, we've got the usual Weekend Warriors action with the Formula Vs at Summit Point, the FF1600s racing at Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit, shadowing the real life Formula 1600 festival that's going on, as well as the FF1600 festival running on iRacing next weekend. The Spec Racer 4s also going to be running at a bizarre addition onto the schedule, but one that I'm kind of looking forward to, the Chicago Street Course. That is going to be a very odd one to look forward to. It gives you a darn good reason to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the racing action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Have a lot of action to look forward to, and if you are interested in sponsoring the Formula 4 Weekend Warriors, you can by joining the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server, getting in contact with Steve Uri, and putting your name on that absolutely amazing racing action that you can catch just about every single Sunday here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But as for this broadcast here for round number 6 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at Magny Core, that will do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's broadcast, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too